Welcome back to Yang Daily for a strange and sad episode. As I'm sure you all know by now, Andrew Yang has officially suspended his campaign for President of the United States. I'm sure you're all feeling some combination of depressed, angry, shocked, resigned, and aimless, as am I. Your feelings are valid, though one of them we cannot afford, and we'll discuss that later. I was very surprised by this. Don't get me wrong, I knew from Iowa that our chances of victory had become very slim indeed, and that this was the most likely result. I just didn't expect it this soon. I assumed Yang would stick it out through Super Tuesday, if even on a skeleton crew, just to keep pushing the message and see the response. I do understand why he would not want to keep taking donations on the premise of running to win if he no longer considered that possible. And there's also an argument to be made for calling it before the movement starts to dwindle, as that can be more demoralizing. Still, I would have liked to see how we did in the other states. All we really got to see was how it went in two of the whitest states in the country, so it wasn't a great sample. We'd been polling low in those states from the beginning, while polling up to 8% nationally, pretty much the opposite position of Pete and Klobuchar, who were lower than us nationally but did well in Iowa. And then there was the whole not counting our votes thing in Iowa as well. Basically, we got screwed by the system every way it was possible to get screwed. The media being blatantly biased against us kept voters ignorant of Yang and his electability. Voting and polling methods both discriminated against Yang's younger and cross-ideological demographics. The DNC pushed us out of the most critical debate. Straight-up corruption in voting discarded a bunch of our votes. And Yang's greater appeal nationally got overpowered by the vastly outsized impact of Iowa on voter perception. And this we call democracy. It's almost so corrupt that I would say it's impossible to change, but Bernie's seemingly inevitable success this year means that it is possible, just maybe not on the first try, particularly if you're starting as an unknown. Bernie went through much of the same as us last cycle, though with far fewer opponents, so the media couldn't entirely ignore him. He came back this year with a vengeance, and he's proving that while the establishment can stack things heavily in their favor, a candidate of real character and substance can still win out. Which leads me back to that one emotion that we must reject, and that is the feeling of resigned or hopelessness. This reaction we cannot abide. Why? Because I think most of us agree that no one else in this field is going to get done what needs to be done. Here's just a smattering of issues that none of the candidates but Yang are addressing, to my knowledge. Cybersecurity, worldwide data regulation, data rights, reinstating a technology advisory office for Congress, nuclear launch security, strict criteria for committing to military action, regulating cryptocurrency, human value versus economic value, presidential accountability, public advisory sessions, nuclear power, special needs, putting mental health on par with physical health, decriminalization of hard drugs, local journalism, journalistic and advertising integrity, spurring entrepreneurship, raising compensation without hurting small business or encouraging layoffs, compensation for non-market work, measuring citizen well-being, the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, abolishing wage slavery, abolishing poverty, uniting the country. I could go on. Suffice it to say that no other politician comes close to Yang's breadth and depth of understanding of the issues in our modern world, many of which are going to massively shape our place within it, as a country and as citizens, for better or for worse. Moreover, that last one, uniting the country, is the most important of all. This country will slowly crumble to ruin if we continue to retreat into partisan bubbles, avoiding any perspectives which disagree with our own, and vilifying everyone outside of our group. We are falling back into the dark ages politically, disconnecting ourselves from reality and any hope of progress. Look at any candidate but Yang, and you will see them demonizing some group of people, particularly the opposing party, and speaking not of finding common ground, but of overpowering and subduing, of forcing their way upon those who disagree, even as they criticize others for doing the same. This approach will never produce lasting change, short of civil war. Andrew is the only one who truly reached out to every citizen, listened to their concerns, addressed them in his policies, and gave them a place of respect within his America. This is why he is so electable, and it is why he is our only true hope for progress as a country. This is why we cannot be resigned. We still need President Yang. So vote for whoever you want this cycle, it's all pointless to me. What matters is that we not be idle during this next presidential term. This cycle, we started from nothing and grew to over 8% nationally in pretty much 1 year's time. Andrew's favorability and support was growing faster than anyone by a country mile, and unlike the shallow support of other candidates, we all know that Yang Gang is for life. If we managed that in a year, imagine how much we can grow in 4. Time was our enemy this cycle. Now, we will make it our ally. If we spend the next 4 years yanging everyone we meet, we will have the whole darn country ready to vote for Yang come 2024. And we will be the unstoppable wave crashing down on the heads of the media, on the heads of the DNC, on everything and anything that stands against us. No other candidate supporters can sustain beyond an election cycle because they don't have a leader who inspires conviction. We do. We know the importance of our fight, not for pretty words and empty promises, but for a reformation of society and a new age of prosperity that will spread across the world. That is why, while our future opponents slumber, we will continue to grow, and we will take 2024 by storm. To that end, I think we should do what we can to maintain organization of the Yang Gang. I'm not suggesting we try to keep going at the level we have been, as that would be unsustainable, but we can keep in touch with our local Yang Gang groups. We can keep growing in members. We can keep doing small activities to educate the people about Yang and his platform. Keep up nationwide communication through our established social media hubs. Support other politicians who are pushing UBI, and so on. Basically, we should tone it down, but keep it going at a sustainable level so that we can continue building in strength consistently. There's going to need to be some reorganizing. Here's what I'd like to do. I want to spend the next week or so getting in contact with Yang Gang influencers, and hopefully the campaign, to see about establishing long-term coordination of efforts and discuss what those efforts might look like. The big question for this podcast community, of course, is whether the podcast will continue and what form it will take if it does. Depending on the outcome of the next week's discussions, it could be that it continues as a daily call to action and news update, or it could morph into a discussion forum or something else. Assuming it continues, we can take some polling on that later. For now, the issue is this. I have been full-time volunteering for the campaign for months now, and I'm at the point where I need to find a source of income. As such, how involved I can be with the ongoing efforts, including this podcast, will depend on whether and how much it can participate in that income. What I need to know from all of you is whether the continuation of this podcast to help organize the Yang Gang and keep us informed has value to you, enough to contribute to funding it with something like a $5 monthly donation via Patreon. If it has that value to you, please email yangdailypodcast@gmail.com and let me know, whether it's the $5 or another amount. Also, feel free to email any suggestions for what form you'd like the podcast to take or any ideas you have for organizing efforts. I will give it 1 week to make sure everyone is in the loop, and then use those responses to assess whether there is enough interest to continue the podcast and to what degree. Until next Wednesday, I'll be keeping it light. If there is any big news or updates, I will let you know. For instance, Yang has been clear that he will not consider VP for anyone who does not support UBI. The Humanity Forward Fund is already getting started on the next leg of the journey and is asking for your help. Scott Santons has a Discord going to continue the fight for UBI. And the Twitter account Forward National Committee has popped up to start a new political party for Humanity First. We'll probably discuss those more later, and I will let you know what the plan is going forward on Wednesday. Until then, take a breather, remind our fellow Yang Gang that there is a path forward, email me your thoughts, and don't forget to Yang Daily.